Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So, we're finally at the end of All-Star Weekend, and I thought I would talk about, how the first half of the seasons went for the Pacers, and just where I expect the team to be by the time the season's over, and, just some stuff like that. I will say this, I think that the second half of the season is going to be better than the first half was. I think it's very, very hard to top how bad the start of the season was for the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton was very obviously not himself. The team at stretches, for at least the first 15 to 20 games, didn't even look like they had played basketball together before. They were horrendous on defense, and when you're horrendous on defense and you're number one in offense like you were last year, you can get away with being horrendous at defense. At least a little bit. However, when you're not that good at offense and you're horrendous at defense, you have a bad basketball team. That was the case at the start of the season. We were holding the ship together, but barely. There was, some points where, even now, still to this day, at the current point in time, people still think I've seen a lot more Tyrese Halliburton hate than I'd like to admit, on the socials, but it's just the idea, I understand why. I understand that, Tyrese Halliburton this season has not played anywhere near as good as he did last season, but I'm kind of giving him a pass, and the reason I've been giving him a pass is because I think as a player, you're entitled to one bad season. We saw what Trae Young was last year, and then this year, the guy's an all-star. So players go through that, man. Players have years where they just go on a bad stretch and they're, not as consistent, or, if in Tyrese Halliburton's case, he really didn't get much time off over the offseason. The playoffs ended, then it was straight to Team USA for practice and stuff like that. I get that he didn't play a whole lot in the Olympics, but still, nevertheless, he did it. You know what I'm saying? And he only got really a month's worth of rest before it was the players' only training camp that they had down in Florida at Pascal Siakam's training facility. Then you had actual training camp, and then you had preseason, and then you had a week or two off from there, or a month or so, and then the season started again. So really, in that 2 months, or not even 2 month span, that maybe 4 or 5 month span of no basketball, Tyrese Halliburton had just not even 2 consecutive months of no basketball. It was 1 month here and 1 month here, and that was it. And the guy's been going ever since. So I can't really get mad at him for not being first team All-NBA Tyrese Halliburton. I still think he's a great player. A lot of people, I've even seen people talk about trading Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm like, nah, I don't know if I'd go that far. You know what I'm saying? I get that he's not what he was last year, but you can't, just because, your car doesn't perform to the expectation, you don't sell the fucking engine. You know what I'm saying? And that's what people are talking about at the current point in time. Not everybody, but it's a little more prominent than I would like it to be. I still have faith in Tyrese Halliburton. I think a vast majority of rational Pacers fans still have some faith in Tyrese Halliburton. I still do. I don't think last year was a fluke. I don't think you go on tears like that where it's just a fluke thing. We've seen spots of it again this year. It just hasn't been as consistent. And honestly, I think the team held it together very, very well for having as bad a start to the season as they did last year. We're getting to a point now where we're coming off, a good solid week and a half worth of rest. There's a chance some guys will be rusty. We're probably even going to be rusty if I'm being honest. I think hopefully Miles comes back. I think Miles will be back for our first. I think our first game is tomorrow night. I could be wrong, but I think our first game back from the All-Star break, yes, tomorrow night against the Grizzlies at 7 o'clock. I don't know if Miles will be back. I'm assuming he will be, but, we're going to have, like, a fresh unit where, as before, we didn't really have that. Miles Turner's a game-time decision with a neck injury. So, and the only person out for the entire season right now is Isaiah Jackson. So, we're going to be coming out of the All-Star break with an entirely healthy roster, most likely starting tomorrow night. And I think it's a chance for the team to really finally hit its stride. I think it's a chance for the team to really come into their own, to maybe even see the same Pacers we saw last year. I will say this, it's going to be hard because now teams understand how to play Tyrese Halliburton. They understand, we simply don't get up and down the floor as well as we did last year. We went from being number 1 in offense last year to, I think, 10th or 11th or something like that this year. So serious drop off offensively, but I feel like a lot of that has to do with offensive scheme changing and committing more effort to the defensive side of the ball this year. Pascal Siakam has played a bigger role this year, I think. His three-point shooting has been phenomenal this year, if I'm being honest with you. It's a career high for him when it comes to three-point shooting. So there's some positives to it, right? Ben Mathurin has looked like a better player. Ben Mathurin's been going on a tear recently. Obi Toppin is still Obi Toppin. We're going to get Miles Turner back, which is always a plus, you know what I'm saying? So I think things are trending in the right direction. I really think this team has the ability to win 50-plus games. The rest of the season schedule is not the hardest, but it's also not the easiest. We have a couple easy games in there. We have a back-to-back against the Brooklyn Nets. We play Chicago and Washington, I think, 2 more times apiece in closing out the season here. So there's a couple of really easy games on the schedule. I think we play Utah one time. So, there's the end, our last, 30, I think our last 30 games, our last 32 games or something like that. There's some really easy games mixed in there. It's just a matter of capitalizing on those easy wins. We've seen it time and time again where this team tends to take easy opponents for granted, and then, they just don't perform very well, and they end up losing. Even the couple games, we played 2 games against Atlanta. I think we have a back-to-back against Atlanta also coming up here towards the end of the season. So, even against Atlanta, our last game we played against Atlanta was a little bit closer than I think a lot of us would have liked it to be. So I got to give a shout out, though, to Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle, I think, has done a really good job of turning this team around defensively. I don't know if it's all him, but it's just the idea. At the beginning of the season, we weren't playing defense at all, really, and our offense wasn't doing well either. And it's really I would say since we hit the 25-game mark at the start of the season, the team just really started turning things around. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the rest of the season. I think we're a definitive playoff team. It would be awesome if we could get a top 3 seed. Like I said, that's maybe a little bit of wishful thinking, but I definitely think we can catch New York. I think we can get into the top 3. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't think we could get into the top 3. It's going to require us not choking. That's a big deal. We can't choke. We also can't, have bad stretches of basketball. We have to play consistent basketball. We can't foul. We can't commit stupid-ass turnovers. We can't have games where we shoot 23% from 3. So, I understand it. It doesn't sound like a tall order, but it is a tall order in some instances. We have nights where we couldn't hit a 3 if our lives depended on it. And then we also have other games where it's we turn the ball over 15, 16 times in a game. We can't have that. I'm also very interested to see where Jarace Walker stands in all of this for the rest of the season. I do feel like, there has to be some type of move in the offseason. I just don't see them keeping Jarace Walker with the 3rd unit. I think Jarace Walker is too good to be in the 3rd unit. I see some type of consolidation trade coming. Hopefully after the 3-point contest, everybody looks at Cam Johnson the way I looked at Cam Johnson. I hope, because he had one of the worst 3-point performances I think I've ever seen in the 3-point contest, at least in my era. It's just, I never viewed he was our savior, and people seem to think he was going to be, and his 3-point contest was just kind of hard to look at. So Cam Johnson's a good player. I just don't think he's the guy that puts us over the hump. I've never thought that. I still don't think that. I'd rather have Obi Toppin and Aaron Nesmith still over Cam Johnson, and that's just where I'm at. I think we are going to see some lineup changes still between, who's going to start between Ben Mathurin and Aaron Nesmith. I will say this, though, and this is going to be something to look out for. If Ben Mathurin is starting by season's end, okay, like let's say in the next 10 to 15 games, all right, if Ben Mathurin is starting and Aaron Nesmith gets moved to the bench, there's a strong indication that Aaron Nesmith probably gets traded. They do have to come up with some type of salary cap somewhere. That's going to be a lot easier to do in the offseason when teams start renouncing their rights to players that they maybe don't want. So moving a guy like Obi Toppin, which I hope they don't do, but moving a guy like Obi Toppin who's going to be making $14 million next year, or a guy like Aaron Nesmith who I think continues to make $11, maybe $12 million next year, moving players like that for just straight up, as a salary dump, would be easier. It would be nice if they could get like a first-round pick or just something back in return for them rather than just give them up for nothing. I don't see the front office getting rid of either of those players for nothing. I just think they're too good for that. But dumping salary is a lot easier to do in the offseason than it is to do at the trade deadline. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I will say this, I think the team is trending in the right direction. For right now, I think we have a solid unit. I think we could make some serious noise in the playoffs. It would be great if we could win 50 games and get into the top 3. I think that's ideal. I think that's the goal. Like, that's my goal for the end of the season. I think Pascal continues to ball out. I'm gonna make a prediction here and say that I think Tyrese Halliburton trends upwards in the right direction. I think we're gonna start to see more of first-team All-NBA Tyrese Halliburton going towards the second half of the season here. I know that's kind of it might even be a hot take to some people, but I don't know. I have it that, like, I feel like we're going to see that Tyrese Halliburton again at some point. I just don't see how you lead the league in all-star voting one year and then you just magically forget to play basketball. I just don't see a world in which that happens. So it's just, I think we have a lot to look forward to. We played the Timberwolves twice too in the end of I think in the second half of the season as well. So the Timberwolves are a team to look out for. It's just I like it. I think our second half of the season is going to be very good. When it comes to Miles and Thomas Bryant, as long as we don't get super injury prone and we just keep the unit together, everybody stays healthy, we play our brand of basketball, I think we'll be fine. I honestly, in this is going to be a hot take. It's going to be a hot take to everyone else. It's not going to be a hot take to Pacers fans, but I think we could fuck around and get back to the Eastern Conference Finals. I do. I don't think Cleveland's as good as they're made out to be. Boston is the really only team I think I'm super scared of in the playoffs. Even New York, I feel like if we had to play New York, I think our bench depth is just too much for them at this point. They gave up a lot, and I mean a lot, to get Karl Anthony Towns. And while they're still a really good basketball team, I feel like they... By getting rid of Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, they added a weak spot to their armor, and I feel like we could potentially exploit that in the playoffs with bench depth, especially with the way Thomas Bryant. I'm a Thomas Bryant fanboy, okay? I'm a Thomas Bryant stan. Everybody knows this now at this point, all right? But I think that specifically, the idea that we have so much more depth than they do. I mean, TJ McConnell was the Knick killer last year, okay? TJ McConnell went pretty fucking crazy in that playoff series. But I think I really like the direction the team is trending in. And I think, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we could fuck around and win 50-52 games. And that could be pretty serious, if I'm being honest with you. So, tell me what you guys think down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. And I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.